Hello everyone and welcome to Boundless Dentistry. In this video we'll talk about some descriptive terminologies that are used in oral and maxillofacial pathology. These descriptive terms that are used in this particular field of dentistry is very important for the surgeon so that it can help the surgeon to explain the patient what the pathology actually is and how the treatment plan can actually be formed for the best outcome for the patient as well as satisfaction for the dental surgeon. So let's get started. Firstly, talking about how these descriptive terminologies help in oral and maxillofacial pathology. Now, these descriptive terms are used to describe the different pathologies that are found in the oral cavity. It also helps in formulating the treatment plan for the patient in order to achieve the best possible prognosis in favorable for the patient. And these descriptive terminologies also help in post-op care of the patient, because when we use these descriptive terminologies, either they will get better, that will be for the betterment of the patient, or they will worsen, which will help the dental surgeon to change the treatment plan for better treatment outcomes. Now in this diagram you can see this is a particular lesion that is present in the oral cavity, and in this particular lesion we look for the margins, texture, any pulsation. If there is pulsation present, it can mean that the pathology may be due to any vascular component that is present in that particular area. We also check for growth and shape of these lesions. So these are the few terminologies that are used to describe the pathology. These are the basic terminologies which are descriptive in nature used in oral and maxillofacial pathology. All of these are used and we will discuss them one by one. Firstly, talking about bulla and vesicle, these two terminologies are used side by side and there is a little difference between them, and most of us get confused when talking about these two particular terminologies. Firstly, talking about bulla, it's a blister. Blister means there is some sort of fluid that will be present in the cavity. It is also elevated. You can see in this diagram how this particular cavity is filled with some liquid. It's also elevated and it's also circumscribed, because you can see the shape is well defined and it is filled with some fluid, and this bulla can either be present in the skin or in the oral cavity. Now on the other hand, talking about vesicle, vesicle is also similar to bulla, but it's smaller in diameter as compared to bulla. It's also circumscribed and it is also elevated. Now how will we differentiate a bulla and a vesicle? The main differentiating factor lies in this point, which is the dimensions. Bulla is normally greater than 5 millimeters and vesicle is less than 5 mm. This is the one differentiating point that is used to differentiate bulla from vesicle. Secondly, talking about hypertrophy and hyperplasia. These two terminologies are used when talking about cell growth, but there is difference between them too. So firstly, talking about hypertrophy, in hypertrophy, you can see in this diagram, the cell number is not changing. In healthy cell, there were 3 cells, and when in hypertrophy occurred, there are also 3 cells, but you can note the dimensions of the cell. In this particular case, you can see the size of the cell has increased but the number is constant, and when this is the case, it's known as hypertrophy. Now on the other hand, talking about hyperplasia, you can compare it with healthy cells. As compared to this particular scenario, you can see that the cell number is now no longer constant. In this case there were 3 cells and now there are 5 cells, but on the cell size is now constant. So when the cell number has increased but the cell size is constant, it is known as hyperplasia. Now hypertrophy and hyperplasia normally occurs physiologically, but sometimes they can also occur pathologically as well. Moving on towards dysplasia, dysplasia is not normal, it is absolutely pathological. In this case, the cell size is not normal. You can see in this diagram, this particular picture shows us the normal epithelium, which is normal squamous epithelium, and when you compare it with this picture on your right hand side, you can see that the cell size is not normal. If this cell was around 2 mm, if in case, now the cell dimension may be 3 or 4 mm, so it's no longer constant. You can also note secondly that the cell shape is not normal. In this case, you can see the cells are somewhat spindle in shape, and here you can see the cells have changed its shape in all dimensions, horizontally, vertically, obliquely as well. The cell number is also not constant. If in this case there were 10 cells, now there may be 12, 20 and more than that cell. So cell number is also not constant. Arrangement is also affected. You can see in this case how the arrangement is constant. The spindle shape, these are somewhat cuboidal in shape, and in this case the shape arrangement is haphazard. You cannot discern whether this arrangement is normal, not normal, and any particular order of arrangement. And dysplasia, mostly it can lead to neoplasm, and sometimes it does not lead to neoplasm. If the irritating agent that is leading to dysplasia is removed, dysplasia most of the times resolves and the normal epithelium, which is this, is restored. So dysplasia is not normal. If identified, it has to be resolved in order to prevent the progression towards neoplasm. Now talking about hyperkeratosis, keratin is the topmost layer that is present in the epithelium, which is normally present in keratinized epithelium. When hyperkeratosis occurs, this normal epithelium, you can see this keratin layer is thin in normal, but when hyperkeratosis occurs, the layer of this keratin is thickened, and when this layer thickens, it is known as hyperkeratosis because the keratin deposition has increased, so it is called as hyperkeratosis. Now moving on towards leukoplakia. Leukoplakia is not a normal finding that is present in the oral cavity, and for leukoplakia it is very important for us to know the exact definition of leukoplakia. And WHO defines leukoplakia as a predominantly white lesion that is present in the oral mucosa that cannot be categorized as any other definable lesion. And this point justifies our second point, that is last diagnosis, because when we eliminate all other possible causes that might lead to this white patch, then we arrive at the diagnosis that this might be leukoplakia. And leukoplakia is a white patch. It can occur anywhere in the oral cavity there, but there are certain lesions that if leukoplakia occurs over there, it's known as a danger point, and these danger points can be uh, ventral or lateral surface of your tongue, the floor of your mouth, and sometimes most posteriorly around the retromolar pad area. So if leukoplakia occurs over there, it's a danger sign. And leukoplakia, although it's idiopathic, but certain factors are present that might lead to leukoplakia. Most important of them and most common of them is smoking, and followed by consumption of betel nut, and sometimes HPV virus also may lead to leukoplakia. Now talking about the most scariest descriptive terminology in oral and maxillofacial pathology and in medical sciences is malignant. Now what is malignant? Malignant is basically used to define a neoplasm that is invasive in nature. It spreads to different area of the body. For example, if it starts with mouth, it might lead to in the neck, and from neck it can also lead to in your bones, lungs. So it is spreading to different areas of your body, which is known as malignant, which is metastasizing. Metastasizing is a proper term which is used when a malignant tumor is spreading to different areas of your body. And it's also anaplastic in nature. We talked about dysplasia. Anaplasia simply means that we cannot define what the structure of the cell is, how its shape is. It's so haphazard that you cannot tell, you cannot even tell whether it's an epithelium or not. It's so disturbing to look at it. You cannot define it at all. So in this diagram you can see these are the normal cells, and you can compare it with these abnormal cells. You can see that the shape is very abnormal in nature. It's haphazardly arranged, and you can see also that this is breaking through the epithelium. It's moving out. So when it moves out, it's no longer confined to that particular area, and then it starts to move to different areas of your body. So this is known as malignant potential of a neoplasm. Moving on towards two more the descriptive terminology, which are erosion and crusts. Erosion is basically a superficial lesion which is shallow in nature, and there is some ulceration present. You can see in this picture how superficial and shallow this particular pathology is, and since there is break in the epithelium, there is ulceration present as well. Now, crusts are defined as any lesion which can occur either in skin or oral mucosa, which is surrounded by some blood or yellow serum that is clotted. So in this diagram, you can see this is a top view of a skin, and in this particular lesion, the area, there is a lesion, and it's surrounded by this yellowish color. This yellowish color is clotted serum that is present over here. So this is erosion and crust defined. Talking about macule, macule is circumscribed. So you can see how well defined it is, and it's also not elevated, it's flattened in nature, there is no elevation. And you can appreciate this by looking at this 3D diagram. You can see how well circumscribed it is, and there is no elevation, it is only confined to the epithelium. And another important thing, it is discolored. You can compare it with the adjacent skin. This skin is, you can see it's nude in color, and this is brown in color. So macule is defined as it is circumscribed, it is not elevated, and there is discoloration present over here. When you are defining any descriptive terminologies of oral and maxillofacial pathologies, these particular points you have to mention it, because these are the key points. Further along, talking about two uh, t- terminologies that are interlinked are papule and nodule. Firstly, talking about papule, papule is small. You can see over here it's small. It is also elevated, visible over here. It is solid. It is palpable. It can be found anywhere in skin or oral cavity. On the other hand, when you talk about nodule, nodule is larger. If you compare this papule with this nodule, it's larger, it is also elevated, it's solid, it's palpable, and it can also, like papule, can occur in skin as well as in oral mucosa. But how do we differentiate between papule and nodule? It lies in this last point, that papule is normally less than 5 millimeters in diameter, and nodule is greater than 5 mm in diameter. So this is how you differentiate a nodule with a papule, because these are two different although similar terminologies that are used in oral and maxillofacial pathology. Although looking alarming when we look at it clinically, but plaque, it's most of the time is not as dangerous as it looks, because most of the lesions that are present in head and neck, most of them are benign, few of them are malignant. So when talking about plaque, plaque is flat in nature. You can see right here how flat it is as compared to papule. Papule is very much elevated, and plaque is flat. It's slightly elevated. You can compare it how slightly elevated it is, and it's also present superficially, because it's not invading any the connective tissue, or it's not very much elevated. It's present superficially. So this is plaque. The most commonly found maxillofacial pathology, oral and maxillofacial pathology, is an ulcer, and we use ulcer almost every day when practicing. So talking about ulcer, ulcer is defined as break in the continuity of the epithelium. And what do we mean by that? You can see in this diagram that how there is a gap between the epithelium. So you can see the continuity of the epithelium is lost, and this crater-like lesion has been formed. So ulcer is a break in the continuity of epithelium, and how this break occurs? This break occurs when there is necrosis of the epithelium. When epithelium is necrosed, a gap is formed. Now, when you describe ulcer in more detail, the margins vary. And it varies, and these margins tell us how the ulcer might have formed. Sometimes uh, the margins of ulcer are rolled, sometimes they are everted, sometimes they are crater-like. So these different margins description tells us the particular etiology that might have caused this ulcer. For example, if the margins are rolled, we may think that it may be due to basal cell carcinoma, but we cannot tell it definitely until a biopsy has been done. Pustule is a small elevated pus containing vesicle. You can see over here, this is a normal skin. You can see sebaceous gland present over here. There is a hair follicle, and when you see on your right hand side this white cavity which is filled with pus, it's also slightly elevated. You can see this red margins telling us about erythema. You can see how this cavity is filled with pus. It's also slightly elevated, and a vesicle has been formed. So this is known as pustules. It also occurs commonly in skin, but sometimes it can also be found in your oral cavity. Now, lastly, talking about one broader term that is used in the oral and maxillofacial pathology, which is descriptive in nature, it's stomatitis. We all know that itis in it at the end of any word in medical terminology means inflammation, and stoma means mouth. So stomatitis means there is inflammation of your oral cavity or inflammation of your mouth. This can occur anywhere in your mouth, and it is usually generalized. By generalized, we mean that the inflammation is present throughout your mouth. Now, there are different causes that might lead to stomatitis. Some of the most common ones are ulcer and any infection that might lead to stomatitis, for example herpes, and ulcer, for example traumatic ulcer, for example you have suffered any accidental cheek bite, accidental tongue bite, which might lead to traumatic ulcer, and that traumatic ulcer might lead to stomatitis. Aphthous ulcer, the most commonly occurring ulcer that everyone experiences throughout their life, it can occur throughout your mouth and that can lead to stomatitis. And finally, less common is candidiasis, which is a fungal infection that can also lead to stomatitis. So in this video, we talked about different descriptive terminologies that are used in oral and maxillofacial pathology and what's the importance of these terminologies when talking about oral and maxillofacial pathology. And it's of prime importance when treatment plans are being formed so that better prognosis of the patients can occur. So I hope this video was useful for you, and if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe and press the bell icon. Thank you for watching this video. See you next time.